Hi there. This video is to answer a question someone asked on Reddit about snapshot testing and Vue components and how do you get the most value possible out of a snapshot test. So normally when you do snapshot testing, you'd see something like this, which would be a pretty beefy chunk of HTML for your component, have a whole bunch of stuff, and it's kind of all compressed together, kind of hard to read. The stuff that you care about is probably in here, but there's also a bunch of stuff you probably don't care about that's sort of making it very noisy and hard to get the value out of this. So I'm going to walk you through how you clean this up and get better snapshots that are actually really useful and transformative when it comes to writing tests. So right out the gate, we're going to not use the defaults that come with Vue test utils and Vue and Jest and vtest and those things. We're going to pull in a plugin called Vue 3 Snapshot Serializer. And the Vue 3 Snapshot Serializer is going to take this input, this original snapshot, it's going to clean this up a whole bunch. It's going to do a bunch of stuff like remove these data-test attributes that you don't care about, that you're never ever going to care about in your snapshots. It's going to get rid of those. But it's also going to do some basic formatting of just breaking all this stuff up so it's easy to read. So this is what that looks like by default. So you'll notice that everything, the tag, each attribute is on its own line. Everything got broken up. Even here, the inline styles, they're on multiple lines. If there are a bunch of classes, those would be broken up on multiple lines. But everything is much easier to read here. There's a sort of night-and-day difference here with this specific div, where it has a tag and an ID and an aria labeled by and an aria expanded and a class and a data-open and a role all on one line. That's just so much. It's really hard to find stuff in this line of code. Versus over here, those are all broken up to multiple lines. So it's very easy. And if any of this stuff changed, you'd see a diff and it would show you, oh, this is the one line that changed. You'd immediately see what it was that changed. And then you can decide, oh, okay, is that something that I did intentionally and I'm good to update a snapshot? Or is that something that I didn't mean to do and I should go and look at what happened so I can figure out how this happened, how I can fix my code. So this is a good starting point, right? It's already much better. You'll notice it's also a lot longer, obviously, because we broke everything into multiple lines. So this one is 84 lines of code, whereas the other one was 21. So this is less than a quarter of the size, which to me means that it's like 75% more compressed or compact. We've taken 84 lines of information and we've squished it down to 21 lines. So it's very hard to read this because of that. That's why. So this is a big improvement. But in this particular test, what I'm testing is this card component. And just for context, this is a card that has a header, body, and footer section. And each of those sections has a left and right side for the header and the body and the footer. There is also, if I click on the header, it will toggle the visibility of the body and footer because there's this accordion child component that has the body and footer passed into a slot. So that's kind of the context of what this component is. There's also a whole bunch of dynamic stuff going on with the styling based off of different props and whether or not you're passing in all of the slots or just some of them because these things are dynamically rendered. So there's a lot of dynamic stuff happening in the template section that I want to test. So for this specific test, I am not going to care at all about anything related to this accordion child component. That's actually being tested in its own test file for that own child component. It has its own test. So I don't care about any of this. And I also don't care about any of these header left, header right, any of these body left, body right, footer left, footer right. I don't care about these child nodes. I do care about the parent section, the footer, body, and header sections, but they're child elements. I don't really care about those. So let's start cleaning this up. So typically you'd have a test file look something like this, where I'm going to be mounting this component. In this case, I've got a setup wrapper where it just makes it easier to pass in just the prop that I want to set for this specific component, for this specific test. And that will mount the component, give that back to me, and then I can just check it in the snapshot. So one trick you can do is .find data-test equals whatever, and you can target a child node, and instead of snapshotting this whole thing, you can just target just the section you care about, right? If that's all you cared about for your test, then just target that section and just snapshot it. don't worry about snapshotting the whole component. That's kind of a waste of your time, right? So that's one trick you can do. In this case, I actually do want to see the classes at the top level here. I do want to see that in this test. So that's not going to work for me. But there's some other cool tricks that we can do. So because I'm using the Vue 3 Snapshot Serializer plugin, I can come in here and I can do global.view snapshots, and I can change the settings there. So one of the things I want to clean up is I don't want to see this ESLint disable comment that's in here. So I'm just going to say dot remove comments equals true. And let's copy this whole thing over to a new tab and paste this in. And we'll just start as we go, we'll manually update the snapshot so you can see what we're doing. So I'm going to get rid of that. That's going to go away now. I can also target anything with a CSS selector, and I can use that CSS selector to remove stuff from the DOM. So I'm going to choose to target this card header element by its class and then get rid of all of its inner HTML. So to do that, I'm going to do global.viewSnapshots.stubs equals, and then my CSS selector, card header. And then the option I want for this is remove inner HTML, true. And so what that's going to do is it's going to find the element with that class. It's going to get rid of all of its inner HTML, which is all of this stuff here. And that's all been removed because I don't care about those things in this test. So let's get rid of them. Looking at this, I also don't care about this tab index that's here. So I'm just going to target anything with a tab index, and then just say remove attributes tab index. So that's just going to find any instance of a tab index attribute in the whole snapshot and just get rid of those. So that's nice. That's one less thing I don't care about. Same thing with this accordion stuff. I already said I don't care about this, either of these guys. So in this case, I'm going to come over here and say, paste in both of these. And let's do, for both of them, a remove attributes true. And that's just going to get rid of all attributes. So that's nice. Whoops, comma there. And in that case, it's going to get rid of all the attributes here, that one, and all of the attributes here, that one. Ta-da, I've cleaned up this stuff some. So that's nice. We're going to do the same thing we do with the header to get rid of all the inner HTML. We're going to do that down here for the card body to get rid of all of these guys and the card footer as well. So we'll just copy and paste what I had up here. Change that to body and footer. Okay, so that's going to target elements with that class and remove all the inner HTML. So here, the card body, this whole section gets removed. The footer, that whole section gets removed from the snapshot. I don't really like this empty style block either, so I'll get rid of that. You know, maybe you don't want to be as picky as me. That's fine. Remove attributes and then style. And then that would get rid of this guy, which if there's only one attribute by default, it'll just put it all on one line with the tag. And now I have slimmed this down to just the stuff I care about. That's it. I do care about the class on this top element here, and also if any other attributes show up, I want to know about those. I do care about the classes here and all of these dynamic inline styles. Same thing with the body and the footer. I care about those. I actually do care about the depth as to the hierarchy, how nested these elements are. If that changed, I'd want to be alerted to that. And I care a little bit about the tags on these like divs, I don't care much, but like a little bit. I would like to know if those changed on accident. And I don't care enough to write a test for it myself, but I am kind of just getting that for free here, which is nice. So I've ended up with 32 lines of code in this snapshot. And the original here, again, was 84. So I've cut out more than half. Over 40 lines of code have been cut out of this. And I did that by writing, what is this, 10 lines of code? So I got rid of 40 lines of code by adding 10. And I think that's a win. I think that's a good trade-off of effort, that I have this level of granularity that I can come in here and I can customize the snapshot to really just hyper focus on just the stuff I care about and nothing else. So the signal to noise ratio on this is like 95% signal. Like there's barely any noise at all. It's like kind of just like some divs that are in here have a little bit of noise, but like whatevs. Like, I mean, if these weren't here, I'd be way more concerned, right? It's like, wait, what's going on? So like, this is pretty close. Maybe this is 99% signal. Like this is basically exactly what I care about. So that's great. We compare that to this, and this is like, I don't know, 40% signal to 60% noise, because we got rid of like 60% of the code in here. So like there's the value is still in here. It's just obfuscated because 60% of the lines of code is stuff you don't care about. So it's still in here, but it's just got a bunch of noise you have to deal with. But then compare that to this guy, and I'd say this is like, I don't know, 20% signal to 80% noise. There's just so much noise to deal with it being so compacted down here. So like this is what people are used to when they think of snapshot testing, and why they don't like it, because it's not giving you a good signal to noise ratio. But by pulling in a plugin, you get a much better system right here, where this is probably good enough for most cases. But when you have something that is a fairly large chunk, and it's really interspersed between stuff you care about and stuff you don't, you have this flexibility, this granularity to go in and target it and clean it up any way you want. You have so much flexibility there. And then you end up with something that is like entirely signal and no noise. So this is really the great stuff about snapshot testing, is now I'm having, with a single line of code right here to match snapshot, I'm getting all of this value, including extra stuff I wouldn't have even tested that I do kind of want to know about. So that's nice. And if any of this stuff changes, I am alerted. If there's any new attributes added to these, if any of these attributes get removed, if there's any new classes added, if anything changes, anything related to these inline styles that are all super dynamic, all of that is alerted to me, and I see that. And if it's, I can then check and say, hey, is this something I care about? Is this an intentional change? Did I mean to make this change? And if I did, cool, I can just hit the update snapshots and I'm done. Like, that's super easy. I don't need to manually do anything with my tests. I can just update the snapshots. But if it's something I didn't mean to change, then it caught that, and now I can go look into it and see, why did that happen? What's going on, so I can fix whatever that issue is. This is so nice. I'm getting a lot more test value for a lot less effort. And you could argue maybe this is a decent amount of effort to set this up, but in this case, this header has a bunch of different background props, these backgrounds for the header. And also, I'm going to have a section for the body and the footer that are also going to have different background props for them. And all of them are going to basically have the same setup. So I would just move all of this up to here, and then just wrap this in it before each. And now, yeah, I did have to write those 10 lines of code for that one test, but now I get to reuse it on like 15 other tests. So like, all my tests get to be really tiny now, where all I'm doing is just passing in the one prop that's like the specific prop I'm testing and the specific value for that prop. And then I'm snapshotting it. And the snapshot will then tell me all of this interconnected logic between these sections, that it looks the way I'm expecting it to. That's wonderful. I love that. So this is a massive win. This is kind of a game changer for testing the template logic in your components, be that VIF, VElse, V4, your dynamic classes and attributes, and your slots and your child components, all that stuff, everything that's component logic related. This is just such an easy way to test that stuff and get all the value you can out of the test without all of the downsides. So if you're not doing snapshot testing, pull in the Vue 3 snapshot serializer and start playing with it, because it's going to make your tests so much easier.